Am I straight? Good enough, eh? What do you think? How are you today? It is Monday, November 28th. I think that's the right date. I'm pretty sure. Are you as surprised as I am that December's only a couple days away? I was lamenting about how I didn't really see the summer go by. And now it's December, which means it's almost Christmas. It's a little bit mind-blowing, isn't it? Is it just me? It could just be me. Either way, I am here. I have a surprise day off today. It's not a funny coincidence, but it's a funny coincidence that the last time I recorded, I had COVID, and now my father has COVID. I'm gonna go turn off my furnace. Hang on. Okay, I'm back. It kind of bothers me when I'm watching someone, a podcaster, and I can hear the furnace go off in the background. I don't know why. It bothers me. What was I saying? Yeah, my father has COVID. So I was supposed to spend the day with him today, but I have training with a lot of people tomorrow in the same room. So my boss kind of asked me to skip today, my visit with Dad today. It was a necessary evil. So I have a surprise day off. So here I am. And I'm going to talk about a lot of stuff. So I really hope this episode isn't going to be too long. I'm going to talk about knitting, spinning, dyeing, books, advents, and Vlogmas, and pens. I think that's it. I think I've covered the list. I have all my things spread out all over the place so that I can kind of keep them in order, so that I'm not all flustered looking for stuff all the time. So I hope you'll join me and we can hang out and you can see what I've been up to. I'm going to start with what I'm wearing. So this is a sweater that my stepfather gave me. He was cleaning out his parents' house before they moved into a retirement residence. And he found this sweater that he wore when he was in high school. Okay, so let me put this in perspective. He's also probably pretty close to 70. I think he's like 68 or 69. And he wore this when he was in his late teens. So it's 50 years old, this sweater, or pretty close to. And it's in pretty good shape. It's got a little bit of pilling, but not too bad for a 50-year-old sweater, right? I love these cables. I might recreate this sweater if I can. I'd probably add another cable up here. See, on both sides, I'd probably just add another cable cross here. But other than that, it'd be pretty easy to recreate, I think. Yeah, so he passed this on to me. I love it. It might not necessarily be my color. This kind of I don't know, is it baby blue? Kind of, almost. But I love it, and I'm gonna wear it. So I'm pretty excited that I ended up with this sweater. I think his aunt made it for him. And his mom kept everything. I ended up inheriting a lot of things from her. Some old books, which is really fun. What else? Some old trays, like kitchen trays and stuff. Anyway, whatever. That's boring, right? We're here to talk about knitting and other things. So, where am I going to start? I'm going to start with the things I've finished since my last episode. So, in my last episode, I was working on these. They were in progress. I think I had one done, or at least the top done. And I've since finished the pair and felted them. I know they look a little bit funny. I'm wondering if I need to wet them just to kind of shape them a little bit, but I think they'll shape with wear. So if he wears them, they'll kind of shape to his feet. I know when I make these for myself, when they're out of the washing machine, I stick my foot in it so that they shape to my feet. And I definitely have a right foot and a left foot for my clogs, which is so funny because when you put it on the wrong foot, it feels really odd. I'm also looking for a leather sole or a suede sole or something along those lines for durability and a little bit more grip. He's 92 years old, so I don't want him to fall because that would be really bad. I think these are made out of just some random wool that I found in a Rubbermaid bin. that was underspun that I just put through my wheel quickly to add a little bit more spin. And I think it'd be akin to, again, some Briggs & Little, maybe a worsted weight. So those are my slippers. The second thing I finished that I showed you on my last episode were the socks for my son's friend Simon. He sadly will not have them by Christmas because he leaves to go home to France tomorrow, so I won't see him by then. So these are just some plain socks that I made out of, hang on, I have the yarn here. So the socks are made out of SR Kurzer that I got a little while ago at a, it was a little yarn shop in a small town close to me that was closing its doors. So I bought a bunch of sock yarn. So I made these socks with that yarn. And I must say that I kind of dig these colors. I hope they fit and I hope he likes them. He's been bugging for socks for long enough. So I hope they work out. The next thing that I finished is the Timeless Cowl by Pearl Soho. But I made it out of this. This is called the Engineer. That's the base, the Engineer. It's a tweedy base. It's really cool. It's a Woolerton Estates is the dyer. I met them at a little trunk show at Fabrications in Ottawa, and their yarn is fantastic. So I made that Timeless Cowl from Pearl Soho. I'll put a little picture over here, but it was so tight. It was so tight that it was uncomfortable. I would have needed maybe another half a skein of this yarn to make it not suffocating. I like a tight cowl because when the cowls are hanging down here, to me, they serve no purpose, right? If I'm gonna put something around my neck, I want it to keep my neck warm. That's the purpose of having things that cover your neck, in my opinion. So I would have needed a little bit more yarn. So I ended up ripping it out and I, soaked it so that it wouldn't be all kinky. And I have to find something else to make with this. So I was thinking of making a sockhead cowl, which I've made a few of those before. I have 2 or 3 in my stash, which is actually right here. So this is a kind of a shelving unit that's by the door that my friend Eric made for me. It's pretty cool, but I have mittens on the top shelf. I have hats on this shelf here. And then this is mostly cowls and smaller shawls. And then I have big shawls at the bottom. So anyway, if you have ideas on what I can make with this, put it in the comments. Leave me a link, something fun. Because I want to make something fun with this yarn because it's so nice. I also have a couple more skeins of theirs. One is a solid and one is a variegated base, and I'm thinking of making a shawl with it, but I'm not starting that until after Christmas probably. Enough about that one. But super cool, super nice. Loved the yarn. The next project is the Boneyard shawl. It's a Stephen West pattern. And I used stash. I had a Noro Curion sock in my stash. So I went and dug that out and made this little shawlette. It's supposed to be a shawl, but for me it ended up being a shawlette, which I don't typically wear very much, but let's see. If I wore it like this, I think it works. But I might also gift it or sell it. I'm not sure. But this is probably how I would wear it if this side could stay. It was fun. It was a fun little project, kind of easy. I've had the Boneyard shawl in my queue since probably 2010 when I first discovered Ravelry. So I love this acid green right here. So my thing. I don't know if I'd wear something just in that color, but it's a really nice pop. And the pink is cute too. So that's my Boneyard out of Noro. I'll link to all my project notes. I'm really good at keeping notes on my Ravelry, just because sometimes I remake things and I want to know what needles I used. That's kind of a bummer when you don't keep track of those things and all of a sudden you're like, damn, I wish. Anyway, have a little sip. You know, it's like pretty close to, it's 4 o'clock. It's 4 p.m. It's my day off. The next thing I made is, okay, so I knit my girlfriends gifts for Christmas every year. And this year, for some reason, I couldn't decide what to make them, but I kept coming back to this big cardigan that I had made for someone. It was a commission last year, I think, about this time last year. And I just, for some reason, I kind of wanted to make this for all of them, which is a big undertaking. So I just basically sent them a picture. They already know what they're getting. They picked kind of their colors. So if they end up washing this, it's not a huge deal because they already know what they're getting. So initially, the cliffside cardigan is the one that I made. I'll put a picture here last year. And that sweater is seamed. And I hate seaming sweaters. I don't know if you guys are like that, but seaming a sweater, I will finish the whole thing in like 3 or 4 days and then it'll sit there for 3 months because I don't want to sew the pieces together. Are you like that? It kind of sucks. Sewing things together is just really not my favorite. So what I tried to do is modify the pattern so that it would be seamless. And it worked out really well. This thing weighs a ton, by the way. It's made with Woolies Thick and Quick. And it's a ginormous sweater. And I ended up making it, it's seamless. It's beautiful. It's gonna fit really well. But there's just this little like poochy thing right here that's gonna bother me. I haven't blocked it yet, so I wonder if I could block it out. But it's just a little bit poochy right here. Because I did a rapid decrease to kind of like make the collar go around. Anyway, literally the only thing that didn't work out. And I totally fudged this whole pattern. It's really not the cliffside cardigan anymore. It's kind of just my adaptation of it. I used basically the stitch numbers and then I winged the rest. So I'm gonna try to fix, you can see it on this side a little bit better. I'm gonna try and fix this. So I'm gonna rip out this, it's not a button band because there's no buttons, but the collar / band. And then rip back to probably about here. And then just keep going with the raglan decreases in the same manner. I'm just gonna keep going the way I was going. And hopefully it'll fix that little issue. So that's number 1 is done. And I'll come back to that one later. So the next item that I finished is called the Fission Twist Scarf. Now Fission is very French, so maybe the English people would say it fission, F-I-S-S-I-O-N. I don't know. It's a funny word. Either way, it's a pattern by Mary Martin, and I knit it out of Regia. Or Regia? How do you say that? So I saw this pattern on Ravelry or on Instagram, I can't remember. And I was obsessed with figuring out how to do this reversible, shadowy kind of technique. I'd never done anything like this before. So I obsessed over figuring it out. And about like this far in, I was satisfied that I had figured it out. But then I had to knit the rest of the scarf because I wanted to use up all my yarn. So I'm not a big scarf person. I don't know why. Shawl, scarf, same, right? But it took me kind of a long time to finish it because I wasn't really into it. I would go hard to just try and get it over with. And it's done. I don't know if I'll wear it, but there you go. It's cute. It's interesting. This technique was really fun to learn, but I don't know if I'll wear it. So maybe another item that I'm gonna gift or sell. Who knows? But it was a really fun technique to learn. And I've since been trying to figure out how I can incorporate this in something else. Maybe a reversible hat or something. What do you think? There's probably a pattern for a hat. I should check her designs and just see what's up. So just plain ragia that I got at that little shop that was closing its doors. I got so much sock yarn. I think I spent like $190 and it was mostly sock yarn. I did buy yarn for like 2 other people, not just me, but I ended up with a lot of it regardless. The next project that I have completed, it's gonna be a long one. I have a lot of things that I've made since my last episode, is this pom-pom chevron hat. I know it should have a pom-pom. It is not at this time, but the original pattern had me sewing. The original pattern is written to use the same needle size for the ribbing and the body. Do you call it a body? The head? The main portion of the hat. But when I knit it, it was flaring, like just the ribbing was flaring, and it was only a couple of inches. So what I did is I made the ribbing with the original needle size. I doubled the length of it, and then I went up a needle size for the body, the head, whatever. And this is knit out of Knit Picks palette. But this hat is really cute. My friend Lorelei is making one as we speak. So I blocked it. This is the hat I was gonna wear to record this episode. I really like this orange. And this orange is the palette that I overdyed, the Knit Picks palette that I overdyed to make my ranunculus. So I have a ranunculus in this orange color, which is so fun. All right, next. So that's it for my finished projects. This next section is going to be what's on my needles for now. My first project is in my bag by my friend Lorelei. She's handmade by Lorelei. Her website I think is loreleiurdo.com if I'm not mistaken, but I'll link it anyway. I adore this bag. See, it's like a little scrappy bag. It's perfect for a sock project, which is what's in here. These are my house cup socks. This is the house cup colorway. It's a sport base by Jinx Yarn. And I've already made my son a pair of these, but I'm pretty sure he already blew a hole through them. But so I'm just turned the heel on the second sock yesterday. I normally knit my socks 2 at a time. I'm not really sure why I did this one individually. I'm not sure, because I totally would have had enough cord to make 2 at a time. So I'm not sure. I think it's just because I wanted to be able to start them at the same time. So they're pretty even. I think one has a little extra blue strip in the toe, but if you look at them, they're pretty close to being exactly the same. So I'm pretty excited about those. I'm working them at 52 stitches on 2.5 millimeter needles. I apologize, I don't know what that is in US sizes. I'm doing, it's a heel flap and gusset, but from the toe up. And this is based on the Mathematician toe up sock formula. So those are my house cup socks. The next project that I have on my needles is the half and half triangles, half and half triangles shawl, half and half triangles wrap. It's knit in linen quill and the pattern is by Pearl Soho. I should probably go get the other color. Just one moment. All right, I am back. So what? I'm even mid-row. I must have been working on this at work or with my dad. I'm not sure. Either way, this is a really lovely fabric. I love this yarn. Linen Quill by Pearl Soho. If you've never used it, you need to change that because it's awesome. So these are the two colors that my friend Lorelai purchased to make this shawl / wrap, but she hates knitting garter. So when I went to visit her, I took these home and I'm gonna knit it for her because I love knitting garter. It's fun and it's easy for those days where you don't want to think. And I love this yarn. So I've decided to knit a giant shawl in garter stitch for my friend. The next work in progress is, so remember the sweater that first sweater that I made, the cliffside cardigan? I am now working on the test knit for Jane Richmond, which is the Fernwood cardigan. She's had it in testing for a little while. The pattern's not out yet, but I'm testing it, so I'm taking advantage. It's the same type of sweater made out of the same yarn, but it's made top down, this one. So this is sweater number 2 for Christmas. I know it's like November 28th and I still have the rest of this one and a whole other sweater that I need to make. And the girls and I are getting together on the 15th. So I'm not sure if that's gonna work out, but they might just get blobs in a box. We'll see. So this is the second one. It's kind of a black tweedy. I know the light in here right now, the sun's starting to go down because it's past 4, but it's a tweedy black base. I have 2 sleeves, 2 pockets, and the ribbing on the front and collar left over. This is also made out of Woolies Thick and Quick, but for some reason I feel like this black color is thinner than the brown color that I had before, which is odd because I then started to worry about my gauge and I was like laying it flat on the ground, measuring it to make sure that it would still work out. So far, so good. I think that when I put the sleeves on too, it'll kind of help spread it out a little bit. So fingers crossed that it doesn't blow up in my face and I didn't knit a sweater for nothing. Worst comes to worst, I could just take that one and make another one, right? She'll just have to wait for it. So that's a test knit for the Fernwood cardigan by Jane Richmond. She's a Canadian designer. In my last episode, I was talking about the McMillan shawl that I made. It's also designed by her. She has some really fun designs and she's just a lovely person altogether. The next project that I have is kind of a fun one. This is the Dorothy hat by Claire Wall. She has the Flossy podcast. I don't know if you can see these. There we go. Oh yeah, it still works. It's in a really dark color of La Bien-Aimée. It's the Merino Aran. So this pattern is written for a worsted weight. And there's 2 sizes. So I'm knitting the smaller size because I was worried that the yarn weight would make the hat too big. I have a really small head. So I was a bit worried that it would be too big if I made the adult size. Well, it's a small and a large. Maybe it's like a girl hat and a boy hat. I don't know. Anyway, so what I've done, I know you're probably like, oh, you're probably wondering what's going on here and why I have all these extra needles or extra wires, but I did a provisional cast on because La Bien-Aimée yarn is rather expensive, and I bought this skein at Stephen and Penelope's in Amsterdam when I was there last. I want to use as much of it as I can. And the cuff on this hat in the pattern is not very long. And it ends up folding over some of this cabling. So I was trying to avoid that. So what I've decided to do is do a provisional cast on and knit the head of the hat, the body. I don't know what we want to call this. And then go back and pick up these stitches and knit the remainder of the yarn in the ribbing so that I'm using up every single yard, centimeter, inch of this very lovely yarn. It is really lovely. I'm like super nuts about these baubles. And she does, the way she does her bubbles is really cute. And she has a little tutorial on it. So if you're into bubbles like I am for some reason, I don't know, never thought I'd be into bubbles. I'm so not a fancy person. Then check out this pattern. It's Dorothy by Claire Wall. She's Flossie on YouTube, and I think she's Flossie on Ravelry as well. So if you look her up. Or Claire Wall, and it's Claire. The next thing I wanted to talk about is spinning. So in my last episode, I was talking to you guys about this, well, the colorful yarn. It's a silk merino blend, and I was trying to figure out if I wanted to spin it on itself, like ply it on itself, or if I wanted to ply it with something else. So I ended up plying it with a white BFL. So it's silk merino is the color, and then white BFL is the contrast. I think it ended up looking pretty spiffy. It's so not my color though. I wanted to make a hat out of this, but it's really like maybe the purple, but the yellow and the orange, so not my thing. So I'm not really sure what I'm gonna do with this. I might put it in color work in a sweater, but it turned out pretty nice. So I decided that I was gonna make another similar yarn, like a barber pole, kind of a little spin cycle-y type of yarn. So I had this is alpaca Shetland. I filled a bobbin with this. This is just the leftover. And then I spun this green, I'm gonna go get the label. Oh. All right, so she, I think, doesn't dye fiber anymore, which I'm super bummed about because she had some really nice stuff. I'm not exactly sure. It says merino humbug. Does anybody know what that is? Because I certainly don't. Either way, it was a lovely color, and I'm gonna just grab my wheel and show it to you. Oh, check it out. But there's more yellow. I don't know why I'm attracted to yellow because it looks terrible on me. But I spun one bobbin of the gray, this, and then I have the bobbin of, it's like greens and acid greens and a little bit of yellow. Honestly, I kind of don't remember what all the colors were. Maybe I have a picture. If I do, I'll insert it here, because I'm pretty sure I sent my friend Michelle a picture of the fiber before I spun it. So that's going to be the next one that I ply, but I'm waiting on a piece for my spinning wheel. Let me show you. So for my birthday, I got money. My parents still give me money, which I dig, because that's when I buy things I wouldn't normally buy myself because they're either too expensive or I just have buyer's remorse a lot. So I bought this jumbo bobbin and flyer. I only got one bobbin because the bobbins weren't cheap either, but this is the woolly winder. So as you're spinning this, it's like the leader, right? For when you're spinning, it spreads the yarn onto your bobbin evenly, which is kind of nice. Because then you don't have to unhook all the time to make sure it's even. But if you see the orifice on this thing, it's huge. So the orifice didn't fit in the front maiden, as you can see. So I then had to buy a new front maiden, which is this piece right here. So that should be arriving on December 1st. And then I'm gonna ply all the things on this giant bobbin. So that's it for spinning. Now, dyeing and advent kind of go hand in hand for today. So if you'll recall this sweater, I've been talking about this sweater forever. As you can see, I've been carrying it around, trying to figure stuff out because I really want to make this sweater. So what I've decided is that I have 2 advents this year, but not advents that I purchased. I did a swap with my friend Svan in the Netherlands, And I did a swap with Lorelei in the States, the one I went to see not last week, but the week before. So it's way more cost effective to do swaps than it is to purchase advent calendars from a specific dyer. And it's so fun because we all have a ton of sock yarn left, right? So what I've decided to do is dye some yarn. The color, like the dye is called True Black, but as you can see, it's more of a charcoaly black. But it'll be perfect for as a neutral for my sweater. So it's gonna be kind of like this top part, and then the bottom rib here is gonna be in this color. And then what I've decided to do is make that sweater with all my advents. Is that crazy pants? What do you think? I dyed 4 of these skeins. They're 100 grams each, so must be around 400 yards in each of these. So I definitely have enough as a main color. I probably have too much actually. And then I'll do my neckband, and then on December 1st, I will unwrap my Advent minis and I will knit them in. So every day when I open my Advent minis, I'll put them in the sweater. And if I'm lucky, by Christmas, I'll have a whole new sweater out of Advents that my friends gave me. So I thought that was kind of a pretty fun idea. So I will finally get that sweater on my needles. I'm pretty excited. I really have like startitis right now. I want to start all the things, which is weird because lately I haven't been inspired to cast on anything because I really, really want to knit from stash because I have a lot of stash. And maybe I'll show you my stash during Vlogmas because I have a lot. So I literally, I go into the yarn room, I stare at my stash and wonder what I can cast on. And it's been kind of a wah wah. I have a lot of single skeins of fingering weight. I might have 1 or 2 sweater quantities. I have a ton of Lopi. I have a lot of Let Lopi, and I have a lot of Alefas Lopi. I even have a few plates but I don't know, it's not Lopi, it's Buffalo. It's got 6 strands in it. So I'd probably divide some of it. Yeah. So that was what this hat was. Oh, by the way, this is Fire Sparks. This is a bag by Fire Sparks. Isn't it so adorable? I know the color is really blowing out right now because I'm losing the light because it's getting dark. As you can see, it's very somber out there. It looks like winter, eh? All the trees have no leaves. It's so weird. I hate it. I miss summer and the long days. And the inside, let me show you the inside, how it's finished. There's no lining, but the finishing is really nice in here, which I thought was worth mentioning. And this little, there's one on each side. So cute. I think my friend Nancy would really love this little pochette because she's really into little bags like this. Okay, I think that's it for yarny content. I spoke to you about my advents. Oh yeah, so I think I'm gonna do Vlogmas this year. I'm getting ready, like mentally, to vlog every day till Christmas, starting December 1st, which is another reason I wanted to get this episode out before December, because then, I don't know, maybe you guys will be able to keep up with the progress of the giant sweaters for my friends. Other than that, I don't think I'm knitting anything else as far as gifts, unless somebody asks me for something. I'm not really planning on knitting anything else. So Vlogmas, it's gonna be fun. I enjoy vlogging, but it's a lot of work. It's very time consuming. So then when the period for which I'm vlogging is over, you feel like a little bit let down. You feel a little bit empty. but you feel a little bit relieved at the same time. So that's going to be fun. And my friend Lorelai and I were talking about it when I visited, and I, hope I roped her into doing it as well. I don't think she's ever done a Vlogmas, so it's going to be fun to see if she does do it. So when I went down to see her a couple of weeks ago, we ended up doing a podcast together, which was so fun. I watched it when I got home after she'd edited it, and we have good chemistry, I think, on camera. So we're definitely going to do it again. So if you're interested in watching that episode, it's handmade by Lorelai, but I'll link it below. I think it was episode 76. She's got like way more than me. This is episode 7 for me in probably 3 years. But I'm trying to be better, and I'm trying to podcast more. I'm trying to record a little bit more. So go check that out. It was really fun. It's, we had a lot of laughs. And which leads me to my next topic, which is pens. These are fountain pens. So Lorelai is a fountain pen collector. I was going to say obsessed with pens, but she's a collector. That's kind of a nicer way of saying it, isn't it? And she sent me this one, my first ever fountain pen, and I loved it. I fell in love with it immediately. So when you post it, it's kind of the same as a regular pen, but it's got a fancy tip and it writes really nice. So this is a Coeco Sport, I think. Let me just check because I don't know my pens yet. Yeah, Coeco Sport. So she sent me this in a little package. We are pen pals. We send each other things. So she sent me this one. And while I was at her place, she was talking about this one, which is a Jinhao X159. That's a very technical name, right? It's just a fancy pen with a fine nib. But I don't know if you're going to be able to see this nib because it's gotten dark. But it's a two-tone. It's got silver and gold. And I used this today to make my show notes. And that's really terrible handwriting, but let me show you a little bit. It writes really nice. So I now have 2 fountain pens. If I'm being honest, I think I like this little pink one better than this big one. But they're both not expensive. I think they're both around the $20 mark, but Canadian, so it's even cheaper American. I'm not sure how much this one is. I think I looked it up. It was maybe closer to 30. This one was around 20 Canadian on Amazon. But it did not come with the ink cartridges, so add that to the cost, I guess, if you're looking at pens, at fancy pens, which are super fun. So that was just my little dive into the pen pool, the fountain pen pool. I'm such a dork. It's okay. So the next thing that I wanted to chat with you guys about is that I have read 101 books so far this year, and the year is not over. So I've like literally completed 101 books. I think my goal for the year was 45, but then when my dad ended up in the hospital, he was pretty much out for a while. So I would just go to the hospital, pop in an audiobook and knit. That's how I ended up knitting a lot of the things I talked about in 2 episodes ago. So I've had a lot of time, but the books I've read recently that I felt were noteworthy if you're looking for something to read was the Flock series by Kate Stewart. So there's Flock, Exodus, and The Finish Line. They're like a series. I downloaded Flock on the Friday when I left Lorelai's to drive home because I had a 4-ish hour drive home. And I wanted something kind of really engaging to read. And I had heard good things about this Flock book. So I think I was hooked in the first probably 20 minutes or so. And then I think I finished that one a couple days later and then started the next one. So by the Thursday, so I started the flock on Friday. By the following Thursday, so the 6 days after I started the first one, I finished the third one. So that's how good those books are. They're not, like, the story's good. It's a bit far-fetched, but it's good. It's very engaging. It's got some sexiness. It's got some teenage angst. It's, you know, I cried, I laughed, I rolled my eyes, I shook my head, and I must have like face palmed a couple times. But it was a really fun series. So if you're looking for something mindless but engaging to read, go for it. It's a great series. The next one I read that I really, really enjoyed is A Town Called Solace. And it's about Solace in this book is a little town outside of North Bay in Ontario, which is somewhere I've been, to North Bay. I don't know if Solace is a real place. I should have looked it up. But I found this book because it was recommended by Selma of Little Big Knits. She recommended Mary Lawson, who's the author. She has a couple of different books, but she recommended that book, so A Town Called Solace, and I really, really liked it. I couldn't wait to like listen to it. I was listening to it, you know, if I was on my break at work or if I had to walk to the back for something, I would listen to, you know, 5 minutes if I could. So I really, really enjoyed it. And then we have a couple of my book club books that I really enjoyed. The first one is The Forgotten Home Child by V.S. Alexander. This is a story about a couple of children who are taken from the streets of London in the UK and brought to Canada to work on the farms and stuff like that. And the story it's a really touching story, but what blew my mind is that it's based on real events. And then I went and looked it up. There's a Facebook page, there's a website, and it's the British Home Children, I think it's called. But I can't believe that this is part of the history of Canada, and we never learned about it in history class. There's so many things that we don't know about our own country. Maybe it's just because it's not that pleasant and they don't want to put these in the history curriculums in high schools or whatever. It's also possible that I wasn't paying attention in history class and that they may have mentioned it, but I don't think so, because I'm pretty sure I would have remembered something like that. So that's The Forgotten Home Child by V.S. Alexander. Definitely recommend. The next one is Looking for Jane by Heather Marshall. So Looking for Jane is about the abortion movement in the 70s, 80s, early 80s in Canada, which is also based on true events. So I'm learning through this book club, through these books that are written as stories about people, I am also learning about my Canadian history. So it's been a little bit eye-opening, a little mind-blowing, and I'm totally all for it. There was another one, The Home for Forgotten Children, I think. There's a couple of books that I read too about homes for pregnant, unwed mothers and what they used to do with the children. They used to sell the kids, like the Catholic Church used to sell the children to wealthy families in the US. Also mind-blowing. I'll try to put the cover over here. There's a sequel. There's books 1 and 2. The funny book that I'm reading right now, and it's Lorelai recommended it to me, is Excuse Me While I Disappear by Lori Nataro. And it's like snort laugh out loud by myself type of book. She is a middle-aged woman who talks about the process of aging and, you know, the things that happen to your body and the way people see you and all that stuff. And it's like, I died laughing this morning when she was talking about a colonoscopy. I was laughing out loud, like almost in tears. So if you're in that age range and you want to read something funny to maybe lighten the, how would I say it? You know, like if you're really bummed out about getting older, she makes light of things and she tries to put a positive spin on it, and it's really fun because we all feel it. Come on, really? You know, I don't know if you can see all the white hair. I don't dye my hair, so it may not be as obvious, but it's happening to everybody. Look at my wrinkles, you know, it's gonna happen to you. If you're young, it's gonna happen to you too. And if you're old like me, then it's happening to you. So look up that book. It's a really fun, easy listen. I'm listening to it because I have issues with sitting still. So a lot of the books that I've read in the last year have been audiobooks because, like I said, I can't sit still. And audiobooks mean that I can knit, I can sew, I can vacuum, I can do my dishes, I can cook, I can cut my grass, shovel my snow, laundry, all the things, drive. So maybe that's a job thing, but I have a really hard time just doing one thing at a time. I think it's because in my job, I have to multitask all the time. So, and I think it's just carried on into my personal life. So that's it for me for today. It's almost dark now. So I'm gonna go make myself some dinner and start working on finishing this sweater. But what I really want to work on is this hat. But I'll do the sweater. I have to be good and do the sweater because I have another one to make. But I will see you on Thursday for Vlogmas. I'm gonna do it. And all those people who have been thinking of doing Vlogmas, do it. It's fun. And people are gonna watch it, I promise. I'll see you in a few days. Go make something.